Good evening and welcome to the 25th of August Cabinet meeting, second Cabinet meeting of August. Before we move to the formal agenda, I just wanted to take a moment to reflect on the last few weeks in Medway. We've had a tremendous few weeks, both putting on record on behalf of the Cabinet, and I know Tracy in particular has been there supporting our brilliant young people, all those who have received both GCSE, A-level, T-level and technical results over the last couple of weeks. Incredibly proud of every single person who's gone through those exam processes. Thanks to the professionals and to the parents and families who have supported our young people. And also to our brilliant team giving information, advice and guidance as well. Of course, not everyone always gets the results they want to receive, but our team have been outstanding at supporting those individuals through that process, and we wish them well with whatever comes next. Alongside that, Medway, of course, in the summer has a huge programme of events, and I just want to take a moment to reflect and recognise some of the brilliant stuff that's been happening across Medway since we last met. Not least, the community-led Medway Pride, thousands of people dancing to Agadoo and other music as well. Black Lace were there, so well done them. On the same day, we had Sticks and Stones Festival happening just round the corner, which was fantastic. And I know, Simon, you were there for that as well, and other Cabinet members were at Medway Pride. We've also had the brilliant Medway Culture Club Carnival. That was superb, and I was really pleased to be there along with many colleagues from across the council. And as part of the Pride in Place programme, we've had the fantastic Love Twiddle and the fantastic Love Strood events. We've got the Chatham one coming in due course. So August has been full of amazing activities. And there's more to come, and we're always incredibly proud of the stuff that we do, often in partnership with friends and colleagues across the community, taking that one Medway approach and making us all incredibly proud to be Medway. And then finally, before we next meet as a Cabinet, we will have a Medway resident fighting for the World Heavyweight Boxing Championship this coming Saturday. So on behalf of all of the Cabinet, all of the Council, and indeed on behalf of Medway, to Moses, Itoma, we are backing you 100%. We look forward to next time we meet as a Cabinet, having the World Heavyweight Champion being based here in Medway. That makes us all incredibly proud. Teresa, please.
Yeah, thank you, Vince. And just quickly, I've been able to enjoy some of those events. It was great to be at Pride on Saturday, a protest, of course, about the struggles for equality over the years, but a huge celebration too. And as Vince said, if you've ever seen about 200 people doing the conga, it was a real spectacle of joyous inclusion. I just wanted to mention that in those weeks and days, Vince, we've had our Medway Go programme happening with, again, hundreds of children enjoying, who wouldn't otherwise be able to, enjoying some really fantastic things, taking over the climbing centre, taking over the Strand, having meals out, doing things that they wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to do, and doing things with mums and dads as well, and a special enhanced SEND programme this year, so that children with special needs had an opportunity to do things. Child Friendly Medway have had their Dino Day. They've had several special days, beach days and fun days at our children and family centres. And of course, next Saturday, it's Superhero Day in Chatham. So, you know, I hope that the friends and residents in Medway watching tonight feel that there has honestly been something for everyone this summer, including free music at Fort Amherst every Sunday, still carrying on. So I think that that's something to celebrate, and as you say, Vince, proud to be Medway.
Thank you very much indeed. Luella is indicating. I'm very happy to bring you in, Luella.
I just wanted to wish Twiddle's Zoe Weston good luck in the Special Olympics that she's competing in this summer. We're very proud of Zoe and we wish her all the best.
Thank you very much indeed. Another champion, hopefully coming back with prizes galore for Medway, and we wish Zoe all the very best. I think Nina mentioned that in last week's 1 Minute Medway, and look forward to seeing the outcomes of those competitions in due course. So, I wish we could just finish the meeting there, actually. But there is lots of other business to get to as well. Apologies for absence. We've had apologies tonight from Harinda and Nina. Colleagues, you'll be aware of the tragedy that took place with the mountaineering friends. Nina's attending and will be laying a wreath on behalf of Medway, one of the funerals tomorrow. So we wish her well in representing us there. Are colleagues happy for me to sign the record of decisions of the 4th of August?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Item 3, any declarations of disclosable pecuniary interests or other significant interests? No, we've got none of those. That's great. Thank you. Let's then move to the supplementary agenda. We've got on the record tonight 2 questions. The first one is a public question. And so we'll take that first, and then secondly, we'll move to a member's question, which is to myself. So Milo, I'm happy to hand over to you for the first question, which will be answered by Alex. Over to you.
There it is. Hello, everybody. Good to be back. I'll get straight to the question. Just on a recent issue. Would you be able to inform me if Medway Council has protocols in their contracts with funeral directors that would enable Medway Council's environmental health officers to routinely enter and inspect local funeral home backrooms and mortuaries, issue local compliance orders on behalf of the national regulator, and shuts down premises that fail to meet statutory hygiene care inspections, care standards? This question is in light of a recent case, national case, crimes of Robert Bush in Hull of Yorkshire, who was sentenced to 20 years in prison, where around 20 bodies and 100 ashes were left to rot in a Hull mortuary. The government itself is pushing for a review of the funeral industry led by the Department of Health. And finally, this is a pressing issue. Medway Council reviewing their contracts with private funeral directors would be a good first step to facilitate crucial regulatory changes needed in the funeral sector, both locally as well as nationally. I'll hand over to the member answering.
Thank you very much, Milo. Alex, over to you for a response.
Thanks, Vince. Thank you for your question, Milo. I'm pleased to report that we have strong, positive and valued relationships with many Medway funeral directors, including Andrea Button, John Weir. And the Food and Safety Team of Public Protection is the enforcing authority for all funeral directors in Medway under the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974. Accordingly, we are responsible for enforcing the provisions of the Act and all subordinate health and safety legislation. At the request of His Majesty's Government, we visited all funeral directors in Medway in 2024 and fed back our findings to the Ministry of Justice. I'm pleased to report that no formal enforcement action was taken against any of them at that time, and standards were generally very high. If any health and safety issues are identified in the future, we would deal with them in accordance with our health and safety enforcement policy. This could include the use of improvement notices, or in cases where there was extreme risk, prohibition notices. Please note, however, that local authorities must be able to explain to a business why they are being inspected. To this end, the Health and Safety Executive, the National Health and Safety Regulator, has identified a list of national priorities and a list of sectors and activities currently suitable for proactive inspection. This was last updated in April this year, and funeral directors are not mentioned. Accordingly, funeral directors are not currently subject to proactive health and safety inspections in Medway. We would, of course, investigate any complaints or concerns raised about them, or if we became aware of any local intelligence from local partners. We understand that the Government is currently reviewing the enforcement regime for funeral directors, and the Council will follow any advice or instructions that follow.
Thank you very much. Alex. Milo, do you have a short supplementary question?
I actually think most things were covered. You mentioned that in 2024 that you checked all the funeral homes and nothing was wrong. How long do these checks usually happen after each other? So when will the next set of checks?
So my understanding is that those checks in 2024 took place at the request of the Ministry of Justice and therefore were linked to the case that you've mentioned. So those were specific and non-repeating inspections, but obviously the regime continues under the health and safety legislation as set out. So as I say, if something comes to follow from government that makes those inspections routine on a regular basis, we would obviously comply with that legislation. But as it stands, that's not the basis on which those inspections took place.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Hopefully we'll see more news from the government on this issue to help you. All right.
Thank you very much, Milo. And again, I would reiterate the point Alex made right at the start. We've got a number of great funeral directors, and the two mentioned there in particular both have been strong advocates for further regulation of their industry. So, and it's great that you've raised it, taking that national issue and putting a Medway focus on it. So thank you for that. Next question, and indeed final question of today's session. Chris, over to you.
Thank you, I'm obliged. I was grateful to address the recent meeting of the Kent and Medway Fire and Rescue Authority and highlight how the Grain on-call firefighters got to an incident locally and were getting water on before any help from full-time fire stations arrived, even though they were at work, not actually on call or on roster. This demonstrates not only how vital these on-call stations are to the rural community, but how, with changes to operational procedures and other factors I've been proposing, availability from these stations can be improved. Since then, there have been field fires, including a major one in my own ward the day after the Fire Authority meeting, requiring 10 fire engines, a water carrier, and it took over 12 hours to extinguish. Now, given that prevention is better than cure, and to ensure our on-call fire crews are available to support incidents elsewhere rather than locally, will you arrange for the Council's communications team, working with others as necessary, to raise awareness of fire risk, not just generally, but especially in this current spell of weather?
Thank you very much for the question, Chris. And let me start by placing on record my thanks, both to the firefighters who specifically were looking at the issue you've raised there, which was, of course, the day after the Fire Authority meeting, but also the firefighters across the country for the incredible work they've been doing at such immense levels over the past few weeks and months. The wildfire in Grain is a good example of what we've seen up and down the country, and actually 12 hours for an incident of that nature is actually quite a short period of time, so we should be grateful for that. I also want to take this opportunity, as I did on the day that you and I were both in Maidstone, to place on record my thanks and confidence in the senior management of Kent Fire and Rescue. I think it's really important to say that with all of the heated and passionate debate that happened, at the heart of this was a senior management team seeking to make financial sustainability and operational improvements as they saw it. I made my point both on the day, and I reiterate that I have full confidence in the team there. Moving specifically to the point that you've raised in your helpful question, it goes without saying, and I hope people who are on social media would see this on a regular basis, Medway Council, Kent Fire and Rescue are incredibly close partners, working to support one another. And of course, one way we do that is by sharing awareness and prevention messages. Our communications team regularly shares awareness posts from the fire service, in addition to sharing posts from central government and other critical partner agencies. Since the 22nd of May, our communications team here in Medway have been sharing guidance specifically on wildfires from both the fire service but also from MHCLG. During the Grain wildfire, without hesitation or being contacted to asked, they proactively shared Kent Fire and Rescue's Facebook posts, working out of hours to ensure residents, both in the immediate area and the wider Medway community, stayed safe. Our communications team work hard to stay on top of reaching the widest audiences and recognised during the summer that posts were best performing when posted as a story. So between just the 17th and 23rd of August alone, our comms team shared 13 stories in relation to wildfires, government advice, and those reached thousands and thousands of people. I have no doubt that on the council's behalf and the residents of Medway's behalf, they will continue to support our heroic partners at Kent Fire and Rescue, not only in the summer period where of course wildfires are higher, but also throughout the year to raise awareness of seasonal risks and threats. I thank you for raising the question. It's an important question, but let me take this opportunity to thank our firefighters who run towards danger and keep all of our families safe every single day. Thank you. That concludes the questions. Thank you to both questioners for your questions today. Let's then move on to the items on the agenda. Moving first to item number 5. That's over to Tracy for the annual review of the School Place Planning Strategy 22 to 27. Tracy, over to you.
Thank you very much. So the School Place Planning Strategy review is a very detailed report which sets out the progress against the strategy. It shows areas of demand and makes recommendations to make sure that we have enough school places to meet that demand in the right places. The report covers across the board, so early years, primary, secondary and special schools across the whole of Medway. The recommendations are set out in section 1 and the detail around each of these recommendations is set out in sections 7, 8, 9 and 10 with a summary table in section 11. So this report and the recommendations in it, they're based on the latest forecasts using the most recent available data, and all of that data is set out in detail in the appendices. It's a very complex task to forecast the school places that will be needed, and our officers do an excellent job of this each year. The proposals, if approved, will be delivered through funding from the Education Capital Programme, comprising of central government capital grants, Section 106 funding and potential borrowing. The report recommends assigning funding to a series of SEND projects which will allow more pupils with special educational needs to attend mainstream schools where appropriate. It also allocates additional funding towards the Danecourt Secondary Project, which has been long awaited and will make a real difference to pupils in Medway with special educational needs. It means that more Medway pupils will be able to attend a special school closer to their homes and provides not only significant savings against placing children in out-of-area provision, but more importantly, means that fewer children will face long commutes to attend schools further away. By approving the recommendations in section 1 of the report, we'll make sure that the Council meets its statutory duty to ensure that we have enough and appropriate good quality school places for all our children in both mainstream and specialist provision, and that public funds are being used in the most effective and appropriate way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any colleagues, Simon?
Yep, thank you very much, and thanks to Tracy, and a special thanks to Paul Clark and the whole team. This is a huge report, and it's comprehensive. It covers every aspect of such an important part of Medway's community and life, both now and into the future. It is, I mean, where to begin is kind of difficult. It's such a good report. It really is brilliant. Covers everything it should do in a really comprehensive and accessible way as well. I mean, it's very clear. Just wanted to pick up a couple of issues of how, really highlighting how important this is, and that's in relation to our local plan. It touches on the local plan throughout the report, and basically it identifies quite clearly based upon the draft local plan, which goes off to its public hearings in a few weeks' time, which we're all looking forward to, I'm sure, which I'm quite nervous about, but there you go. It's going to be a good period of time for us to really get to grips with all the issues. But the draft plan outlines in detail the 24,500 new homes, which, I mean, if you think 2 people in every home on average, possibly more, that's an extra 50,000 people in Medway between now and 2041. This is the education for the children who will be growing up in those communities over the next 15 years and beyond. So this is about sustainable development and how we deliver it for our community. A clear example of all those things, it's summarised in the education infrastructure delivery plan of how we're going to go about doing that, which is comprehensive. That even touches on the climate issues as well, which is great to see, almost as a sort of automatic part of the report now. The climate issues, how we deliver sustainable schools from a climate point of view, is built into this as well, which is fantastic to see how that's now just sort of part and parcel of the delivery. I think the other side of the coin, and the report touches on that in a couple of places, section 8, it touches on that tightly, is what happens if we don't have a plan. And those areas where we are now really struggling, and I'm thinking of the Capstan Valley and 1 or 2 other places where we have got this huge developments taking place, and we're playing catch up on education provision as a result of that, because those unplanned sort of sporadic developments which have gone through because we have not had a local plan, that won't be happening in future. We've got a plan for our education which is built into our plan for housing, and that gives us that sustainable development for the future. So this is a crucial part of all that we're trying to deliver for Medway. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got Luella, then Teresa, then Alex.
Yeah, just quickly, thank you, Tracy, for the report. As Simon said, it is a huge report and really important. We need to plan for the future of all of our children and their future generations. And the main thing that you just said was reducing the travel outside of Medway for Medway children is really important. Even if you just looked at the time, they have to get up in the morning just to get to school. So I support it, and I think, you know, more Medway children going to Medway schools can only be a good thing.
Absolutely. Thank you. Teresa.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for the report, Tracy. It's really comprehensive, and along with Simon, I commend all the officers who've been involved in this, because this does send a message, as you've said, Simon, to people that we are not waiting for houses to be built to make plans for the infrastructure we need. Very often when people object to housing, they tell us they're not objecting to the housing, they're objecting to the lack of infrastructure. Here is absolutely solid evidence that the infrastructure is being put together and will be there. I wanted as well to talk about section 7, because I think that shows a refreshed and pragmatic approach to school places. We know that just at the moment there's a dip in the birth rate, and we know as well from experience that that will rise again. And having been through times under the last administration where the default position was always to close schools, actually, in some cases, as quickly as possible, we're not doing that. We're working with schools to do the sensible thing, reduce their planned admission numbers, their plans, make sure that we maintain those schools so that they're ready when we see an uptake in the birth rate. The other thing about this report, and I think particularly actually of our private early years providers, it gives them confidence that there's sufficiency in the system and that they can also plan their businesses. When I was at the Strood Pride in Place event, I was talking actually on Sunday to some private early years providers, and they were, you know, very pleased to be at the event, of course, but talking generally about the way that they are managing their business at a time when numbers are lower, and wanting to keep things going for a time when things move up. So they and everybody else can access this report. It helps people to forecast their business, and I think that's a really critical part of it, because it shows that, you know, we're not just paying attention to the needs of children, absolutely critical though that is, and families, but we're also thinking more widely about everybody who's involved in our local public services economy, making sure that we've got all of these provisions at different levels. So I do welcome the report. It's good to see that schools in Medway have got a great future, and that it's possible for the council to work with schools to make sure that we don't abandon all the good work and reputation over the years. And I'm delighted to say I'll be at the anniversary celebration for St Peter's in my ward in later on in the autumn term, a school that's been in my ward for over 100 years, that was once under threat of closure and has continued to be much loved and go from strength to strength. So poignant report in some ways for me, thinking about those bad old days when we were fighting school closures, and a positive outcome and everybody who works with them in Medway.
Thank you very much, Teresa. Very helpful you've mentioned that. Alex.
Thanks, Vince. Not for the first time, my great political ally has stolen my thunder. I think it just suggests that we're on very much the same page, and I will also be at the 125th anniversary celebrations for St Peter's Infant School, because as Teresa knows, that's the reason that I'm here tonight. Essentially, it's what turned me from a parent into a campaigner, into an activist, into a candidate, into a councillor. And I think that that's, you know, something that even now it's really pleasing that there's a consistency to what we're able to do, and that back then what we were fighting for was the ability to send our children to a local school, the school that we had chosen. And that's something that I am passionate about, as, you know, perhaps the survivor of childhood trauma of having been bused to the nearest primary school aged 4. That's not something that I wanted for my children, and it's not something that I want for any children in Medway to be forced into. And that's where adequate planning comes in, but also, as Teresa says, not panicking when there is a slight dip in birth rates, and a recognition that there is a happy average that can be taken, because there can be all sorts of reasons for those temporary blips, whether it's the type of accommodation near a school and particular sort of churn because of private sector rental housing or whatever it might be. So good that we're taking that approach, but also just to pick up on and expand on what Simon was saying about the sustainability. And I think the sustainability is actually at the heart of where these schools are as well, not just how they are built. When we, you know, I talk a lot about safer, healthier streets, but a starting point for a safer, healthier journey to school comes from living near the school that your children are going to attend, and having that genuine opportunity to make that journey on foot, to save money, reduce the stress of car journeys that are unnecessary. And so it's fantastic that the work that's gone in to ensure that as many children as possible, whatever their particular needs, have the opportunity to go to the school that is closest to them.
Thank you very much. And you forgot the last bit, which was from councillor to cabinet member as well. Before I go back to Tracy, look, this is a fantastic report, and I would echo thanks to the whole team, but particularly to Paul Clark. Does an outstanding job and is respected across the education system here in Medway. And look, we shouldn't take this for granted. There are other unitary authorities in the country who are currently shutting schools because they're not taking perhaps the same approach that we have. And we know that our predecessors went through that attempted closure programme, and in one case a successful closure programme, despite the best efforts of residents in the Wayfield area. But because we've got that joined up One Medway approach, it means that we can have those joined up conversations with schools to have perhaps a reduced PAN, which is better and more flexible than a binary choice of an open school or a closed school. Tracy, you mentioned powerfully in your opening remarks around, of course, and this is not a Medway issue, this is a national issue, the move towards the right school for the right child. And that can be a difficult conversation sometimes, but you can't start having that conversation unless you've got the resources and the right schools, and that both means the people, but also the place in place. And this plan shows that we are clearly There's more to do, but there's definitely good progress being made. So look, I'm really grateful for the leadership you show in this area, with your personal experience, of course, in the world of education. That is always an incredibly powerful thing to be able to say. Our portfolio holder for education is a former head teacher. There's not many other councillors across the country that can do that, and I'm incredibly proud that is something we can say in Medway. But absolutely, I want to thank. We spoke about the schools teams, particularly in secondary schools, but also one other thing that will be happening this time next week. Lots of youngsters will be going to school for the very first time, and we know that nationally, again, not necessarily just a Medway problem, school readiness is a challenge because of a load of different factors, because of COVID, because of all of the different things that are happening across the country. So I wish all of those year R pupils the very best, along with their families, and tears are acceptable on day one. I declare an interest there as well. So look, I think we are proud of what happens in our schools. Most of them are not LEA schools. We know that. Whatever our individual views of academisations of schools, we are where we are now. I happen to think that on the whole, we've got academies that act responsibly and actually have Medway as a key focus. There are very few academies that we have where Medway is just school number 6, 7, 8, 9 out of 300. That is the exception in Medway, not the rule. The vast majority of our academy trusts, both at primary and secondary, are Medway focused, and we appreciate them for that. So I'm very happy to support this report. Tracy, back to you.
Thank you, and thank you to my colleagues for your comments and for highlighting some of the real key aspects of the report. One thing I really do want to acknowledge is how grateful I am to the role played by our education partners and their flexibility when they've been needed to take bulge classes because we've had more children come into area than expected, but also the flexibility to decrease and then potentially increase their planned admission numbers so that we make sure that we are catering for the numbers that we've got. And so I'm extremely grateful to our partners in schools across Medway. As I said, this is a very detailed and complex report, which is based on a really comprehensive analysis of a huge amount of data. Sometimes things happen unexpectedly. Sometimes there is inward migration that's not necessarily come into the data, but we are always managing to find enough school places, and that is that whole partnership across the education system that makes this happen. So my thanks go also to officers and the huge amount of work that they put in, not just to this report, but also to looking in between the annual report coming to make sure that all our children are catered for. So thank you very much.
Our 63,000 young people's future is in very safe hands. Thank you. Do colleagues agree to recommendations?
Agreed.
Thank you. Let's move on. I remind colleagues that for the next two items, we've got the supplementary agenda, which has got comments from ONS, very helpful comments they were. I move to Adam for agenda item 6, the annual fostering report.
Thank you, Vince, and thank you to the staff and Leanne for preparing this report. Also, Chi Dringa. This is the annual fostering report for 2025 to 2026. Obviously, out of all of the parents and children that we have within the authority, there are some who aren't, for various reasons, able to continue with their parents. So, in the case of the annual fostering report, these are foster parents who have agreed to, that's subject to vetting, etc., and the training, etc., to take in children that aren't able to remain with their parents. So over the last year, we had 212 inquiries from people thinking of becoming a foster parent, and that's led to 14 newly approved fostering families, and also there, in all, we have our existing 81 approved fostering households who are supporting 128 children and young people. So this is on pages 135 to 174 of the agenda. Obviously, there are challenges which sort of continue, such as the availability of placements, especially for older children and sibling groups and children who've got complex needs. Kinship activity is important, not least because we were fortunate to become one of the 7 authorities which have been awarded the opportunity to be able to run a pilot, kinship care pilot. So the position for the last year in relation to kinship activity is that 112 viability assessments were sort of completed, 206 special guardian families receiving support, and that covers 286 children. There's also the requirement for us to maintain compliance over the private fostering arrangements, and we had 30 notifications during the last year. Thank you very much for the comments by the Children and Young People's overview and scrutiny. And so I move that we note the contents of the annual fostering report for 25 to 26 and the annual private fostering report for 25 to 26 in appendices 1 and 2 respectively.
Thank you very much, Adam. I'll take Teresa first.
Thank you, Adam. Another really comprehensive report, and it's great to see for the first time the kinship assessments being included. And I've thought about, when I was reading the agenda, I've thought about this report a lot today, because very sadly, there's been a national report about the early deaths of young people in care, and some very poignant and courageous media by a young man who was describing what it was like to be, as he felt, abandoned at the age of 18 to fend for himself, something that we hardly do actually with our own children. And as we know, these children are our own children because we're corporate parents. And I think one of the things that's really good about Medway is, first of all, the way that the fostering team are always out there. We've mentioned this before. Everywhere they can go, they go to encourage people to take part in this. The assimilation of the kinship pilot, which I think, it's no accident that Medway was chosen for a kinship pilot. We've got a high number of children in care compared to the rest of the southeast, but a good reputation for taking care of those children. And of course, if people can go into a foster family, we've got the ability now to extend that time beyond 18 if the foster family can make it work. And of course, that is much more likely to happen in a kinship. Parents come forward, and I want them to know that I value them hugely. But I want them to remember also that if they possibly can, keeping in touch with, keeping close the young people that they've been fostering when they reach 18 is incredibly important. And I don't want young people who've been in care in Medway to become early death statistics because they felt alone. And I think we've all got a responsibility to think about that. Adam, you yourself are a mentor for a young person. I know that other people are. They're a group of people incredibly important to me in my professional career. But I think when we see a report like this and we hear what's the consequence of the national report, it's really important to pause and say, well, let's continue to do the very best we can for this group of people. Because like everybody in Medway, I want them to have the best chances, and I want them to feel optimistic and look forward to their life. One of my grandsons is going off to university. He's 18. He seems to me to be far too little to be able to possibly do that. But going he is, and of course we're all rallying around to make sure that the transition is absolutely the best it can be, and we'll annoy him with text messages and postcards and all of those things while he's there. If you haven't got that at that critical stage in your life, it's tough. And these foster carers fulfill that role along with the kinship carers. So this is a good day to be looking at this report, Adam, and I'm very pleased that it's here.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take Simon next.
Yep, thank you very much. Thank you, Adam, and thanks to the team, to Leanne and to the rest of the team for the annual report. I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. You mentioned the word challenges, and in that, obviously, people think about there not being enough foster families and everything. But the other challenge at the other end of the scale for the council is the doing it. I mean, that's not going to stop, is it? Just because we don't, the money will be found somehow, and that's a call on government to help and everything as well. So there are challenges within this. I think. On the positive side, though, two things. One is that if people are interested, then we've got experience within our own colleagues and everything. And I'm just making reference to my own ward colleague, Joe, Councillor Howcroft-Scott, who is, if you want to know what fostering's like, spend half an hour with Joe and you'll learn about the wonders of it and the challenges of it as well. And it's just an amazing thing, gift you can give back to the community and to the children concerned. And I think the final point is that a measure of any community, any area where we live is how we measure that is how we look after our children, and that is fundamentally written into this report. I can feel it in the report almost as I read through it, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Simon. Before I go back to Adam, I saw that report on BBC Breakfast this morning. It was powerful, and it shows that even with the best systems in place, there is still always more to do. So you absolutely recognise that this is a part of a national conversation, and it's right and appropriate that we take the time that we do with this annual report to look at that from a Medway perspective. I really welcome and you can see it in the supplementary agenda, some really helpful questions around the kinship care pilot and more generally around kinship care. I think that is, by the nature of being selected as a pilot, that's getting people to ask lots of really good, helpful questions. Because I suspect there would be even, and this is no criticism, probably some of the 59 councillors probably hadn't heard of kinship care before the pilot had been announced. And that's not a criticism of them. Sometimes you need a programme like that to kind of open up your eyes and go, well, of course, that makes logical sense. If you can be with another family member, then you should be, if that's safe and appropriate. But again, I think actually if you look at the questions from scrutiny, they were very helpful around some of the practical stuff that comes from that. Again, all those conversations help feed into that point that ultimately, as was summed up by Ofsted 3 years ago, children matter in Medway, and how we deal with those vulnerable young people in the system, on the edge of the system, is critical. And again, I think we can see that there is good work happening. We are not complacent. And I know your leadership on this from a very personal perspective, as Teresa says, taking on a personal mentoring role as well, reverse mentoring, all of that stuff just shows this is not just lines on a report. This is real activity making a difference to, again, some of our most vulnerable 63,000 young people. So thanks for your personal leadership. And as Simon says, there are a number of councillors across the political spectrum here in Medway who can talk about their experience of the care system and things like fostering. So again, always hearing that I really welcome. And a number of those voices, of course, sit on the corporate parenting board, which is so ably chaired by yourself, Adam. Back to you.
Thank you, Vince, and thank you, colleagues. Just a plug for the annual barbecue, which is being held for the fostering children on Thursday up at Elaine. And also just to highlight just a couple of highlights over the last year in relation to like fostering. One of those was the opportunity that I had to go on Good Friday to visit one of the mockingbird constellations, where there's a foster carer who has got a caravan there, and the delight on the faces of the children and the creatures who were dressed up in Easter garb with lots of chocolate and various things like that. It was it's a break for the fostering children. It's a break for the fostering carers. And the whole thing about Mockingbird is that it's almost like uncles and aunts for foster carers that they can turn to when they come across issues or like problems which they haven't experienced that before. And then the other highlight was a week ago, last Sunday, when a few of us, Zoe came with me, and Councillor Nestorov and his wife came with me to see Fatima Whitbread, who has got the UK Challenge, Fatima Whitbread Challenge. She's going around various parts of the country, and this was held over at Bearsted, the tennis club there. And I had previously heard Fatima speak at a conference about 2 years ago within Harrogate, and what she's been through is absolutely sort of like astonishing. She was cared for in care because there was a baby that neighbours heard the cries from in a flat they hadn't seen anybody go in and out of for a few days, and that turned out to be her later name was Fatima Whitbread. She was 4 months old, and she went into care. She was more or less like suggested to her during the time that she was in care that she didn't really have that much to look forward to. She would most probably be kind of like soliciting on the streets of London, etc. This, that, and the other. But she was like determined not to, and due to the PE teacher that she had, she concentrated on athletics and javelin, and within about 11 years, from the age of 11 or 12, she was winning gold medals for throwing the javelin, which is absolutely amazing. So she is an inspiration, and you know, sort of long may that continue. It doesn't matter what hand that you've been dealt with, if you've got people that believe in you, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a kinship carer, whether it's a foster carer, whether it's someone that's, because you've got a later item wanting to like adopt, there are the opportunities there, and it's important to be able to grasp them, but it's also important that we get people to come forward and volunteer to give those extra chances to our children in care. So thank you, colleagues. Back to you, Vince.
Thank you very much indeed. And I would finally absolutely echo, we mentioned all those events at the start of the Cabinet meeting. The fostering team are a absolute resolute presence at every single one of those, including things like the Grain Carnival as well. It's always great to see them out there, because quite often conversations in perhaps communities which don't have such high levels of community activity happening like that, having them present for a day like that is really important. So again, huge thank you from all of us to that particular team. Colleagues, happy to agree to recommendation? Thank you. Let's move on to the next item. Back to you, Adam. And again, remind colleagues of the supplementary agenda as well.
Thank you, Vince. So this is the annual report, and for our children who have been like adopted, and the carers who have come forward to actually adopt children. We have a multi-local authority approach here, which is ourselves in partnership with the Kent County Council and the London Borough of Bexley. And I and my colleague Mark Joy, who's the spokesperson for the Conservatives in children and young people, had the opportunity to go along to Oakwood in Maidstone during the last year in order to meet some of the families, one who had already adopted, and one within Medway who was about to go through for like adoption, and the sympathetic care that was extended, and just the joy of being in the room with them was just something to behold. So I'd like to thank Amy Coombs and her staff. I welcome this annual report for 2025 to 2026. The report, if you look through it, it gives an overview of the adoption service activity, and the continued emphasis on recruitment. So within the year, they managed to expand support to adopted parents, increased range of therapeutic services, peer support, and the government's adoption support pilot. And this annual report provides information that will assist us elected members in respect of our responsibilities as corporate parents for looked after children. Like I said, that there's a pooled budget that we have, which we pool with Kent and with Bexley, and the budget from Medway is about 23% of the annual budget that goes in towards that. It supports Medway's ability to secure permanence for children through a more coordinated and resilient regional service. And the feedback is that families tell us that they're helped to feel confident, connected, and able to meet children's needs. And that comes through the survey, which is done each year as well. So the report highlights positive feedback from families. They describe feeling listened to, like supported, and clearer about the next steps within their journey. It shows the value of the like adoption partnership South East, like relationship-based and responsive approach. So I commend this and that report to members of the Cabinet. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adam. I'll take Teresa.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. Another really positive and helpful report, and showing that actually this being in this adoption partnership is good value for money. You know, we had to think about that when we joined it, and to me, it's made a big difference. One of the standouts for me in the report is the rise in the number of early permanence placements. That's really good to see. It gone up to 35%, and the speed at which within the partnership adoptions are managing to be concluded higher than the national average. And I think especially the volunteer groups within this, giving the children themselves as adopted children, the adoptive parents, and everybody that works with them, safe space and time to talk together about the experiences that they've had. And that is important because adoptions can be complex, but having that safety net of peers and supporters and information is absolutely critical to making sure that the adoptions stay safe and stay successful. So I think this has been a very good partnership, and long may it continue. And of course, as we go into LGR, we'll need to think about perhaps widening the reach of the partnership to make sure that everyone the new authority is responsible for can take advantage of it too.
Thank you, Simon.
Yep, thanks very much. Thanks again, Adam, and to the whole team for another really incredibly important and good annual report for this. Just two little highlights I wanted to pick out which stand out for me in this. One is about the desire for continuous improvement. There's no resting on laurels here. You can see that clearly in how they want to get the tracking right and all the other aspects of delivery of that, and how further strengths identified in the report develop their additional support offer and everything else like that. So that drive for continuous improvement is within what they're trying to achieve here. And then the really nice thing is the positive feedback from families. To see that, knowing that you're getting that kind of feedback and understanding, and the listening that goes on to hear that feedback from the teams involved is really nice to see. So there's two really key standout points in that for me. Thank you.
Thank you. I can't see anybody else. So Adam, I think as others have said, this is again a really good example of collaborative working. As Teresa said, it wasn't an absolute given that we would join this partnership. We thought about it and thought about it carefully, but it absolutely is paying good dividends, and you can see that within the report. Of course, when it comes to the issues in this particular report, our starting point will be for the 1st of April 2028, safe and legal. But of course, we want to go far beyond that. We want best practice. We want to ensure that the children and families who are going through this process have a safe, legal, and positive experience through this. So we need to ensure that as well. And this, being part of this partnership, is the right thing. And I would encourage all 4 unitary authorities to be thinking carefully and positively about taking up a model of this nature. Adam, back to you.
Thank you, Vince. And I move that we note that reports. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the recommendation agreed? Thank you. Let's then move on to item 8, which sits with me, Treasury Management Report for Q1. I move the recommendations as laid out in the report. As always, I'd encourage colleagues to look particularly at section 7, where our friends at the Audit Committee have the opportunity to go into very granular detail, as they do so very well. They spoke about a number of issues. You can see them there laid out to paragraph 7.10. And again, I'll pick up on a couple of those that they've raised in particular. Lobos, which of course continue to be something that we look at, not a product, a financial product this administration took out, but we are the ones having to deal with it now. But as it says there, we're not anticipating at any time soon that likely to be cashed in by anybody. And of course, there was a question around disposal of assets, and I think we've had a very clear, long-standing track record on that. And again, there's been some correspondence over some sites since we last met as a cabinet, which I think we were dealing with very positively, and I want to thank in particular our new head of assets and valuations, Edwina, for doing a great job and liaising particularly with the family who had legitimate concerns, but they were put to a positive outcome very quickly. So again, some of the issues raised by audit, which certainly indirectly and in some cases directly leading to some of those issues which residents are raising with us as well. As is always with Treasury management, there is a lot of technical information in there, good information, technical information, lots of which is outwith of our control, but we will always listen carefully to our experts in this area. So I'm therefore happy to move the recommendations as laid out in paragraph 1. Teresa, thank you.
Thank you, Vince. I do support the recommendations, and I think one of the things that this report is very clear on is the instability of the world and the impact that that instability is having on our ability to manage our treasury. And I do give my thanks and praise to everybody in finance who has got to keep a weather eye on this the whole entire time, because the instability of the world moves quickly. We've got people on the other side of the Atlantic, in particular a person who talks about starting a new war, as far as I can see, every day, as well as all of the ones that President Trump has failed to conclude or get his own way as he thought in the first place. And the fallout from that is coming here. Our Prime Minister talked about the war in Ukraine on his visit there for Ukraine Independence Day yesterday, and he said, who started the fire? The people responsible for starting the fire are the ones who have caused all of the problems and could at any time step away from that. That translates into what we have to manage at Medway Council in terms of the Treasury, and make sure that our investments are wise. Yes, debt is high, but I think it is important for people to remember that when debt is high, investment is positive. Things are happening that will have long-term positive impacts and changes on all of the services that we have here in Medway and all of the things that we do. And it is a matter of managing that within this report. And the report sets out how we are doing that and how finely balanced, but balanced it is in terms of what has to happen. As you said, Vince, some of the things there were things that we inherited that have to be managed along with our own refreshed approach to this. But in the main, we are managing our treasury. It does take account of everything else that's going on and is responsive. And that's the important thing. You can't rest on your laurels. You can't sit back and say, well, we've done as much as we can, because the world is moving faster than our own calculations possibly could. It's a matter of being responsive. So this is, you know, that there are tensions within the Treasury Management Report that we've had to manage again. There are difficult discussions, but overall, it's about making sure that we manage Medway Council's finances in order to improve everything as much as we can. And I think as far as this report's concerned, it does show that we're doing that, and that there is recognition from experts that that is happening. This is not a report that says everything has gone wrong. It's a report that is pragmatic and recognises the situation we're in and the measures that we are taking to manage that. And for that, Vince, for your portfolio and everybody in finance, I am grateful.
Thank you very much, Teresa. And I would agree with you that national and international events have a big impact, particularly on treasury management. And we all know just one incident globally can lead to quite substantial changes and variations in our planning, not just for us as a council, but for us as a country as well. And you're right to highlight, and look, all of our reports are probably more transparent than they legally need to be, but we have always taken that approach rightfully. And we do that because we want the residents, and look, there's 292,000 residents in Medway. Not every single one of them is going to be really incredibly interested in the treasury management of their council, but they will be worried about council service delivery. And in a number of circumstances, and two that immediately spring to mind, care for Medway and temporary accommodation, in both of those places we have a national challenge. We are taking, I think, a very positive, proactive approach to not only have longer term savings, but also better outcomes for those vulnerable residents. Now, other councils can take other choices. That's matters for them. But I absolutely support those decisions that we've taken, and we will continue to see those through till the 31st of March. And then I hope that we see further delivery of outstanding Labour-led council administrations here for our residents in Medway. On that basis, I'm happy to move the recommendation. Is that agreed? Thank you. Let's then move on to the next item, which again sits with me. Move the recommendations as laid out in the paragraph 1. Refer colleagues to page 248, and you can see there, this is, I think, a really important and really clear visual. It's almost like a coat of many colours. You can see there the greens. We will talk about the greens a little bit, but we'll focus predominantly on the ambers and reds. We're not complacent about the greens, and of course you can see across the 5 priorities the numbers of each. But where we've got reds, as portfolio holders, we're having those daily and weekly conversations. Some of those are very close to moving from red. Some of those are longer term challenges. Some of those have been challenges long before we took over the council. Doesn't mean, again, that we're not trying to make positive progress on those. So I don't intend specifically from my perspective to talk about any specific indicator, but this is your opportunity. Recognising, of course, being Q1, there will be some of those indicators which obviously will perhaps need 2 or 3 quarters of data to show further progress in this year. So I'll pause at that point and see if any colleagues wish to come in. Simon, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Vincent. Thanks to everyone. There's a lot of people behind this report who compiled it and pull it together and give us this very visual and very public out-facing report on how we're doing in so many different ways. And that's one of the things I love about this administration generally, is about how we don't want to hide anything here. This is about, and if people want to write into the council and say what is happening about X, Y, and Z delivery of our services, then look at this and you'll find out, and it's written writ large here if you want, and then it's open for discussion as well, not just amongst ourselves but with the communities where we work. It's easy to go, I could go through a lot of stuff in here. I just thought I'd pick out a couple of things. Priority 3, which covers most of my area, if you like it, as well, and enjoying the clean, green, safe and connected communities. On the bus journeys, page 306, I've got it down here, we're not getting our target there. And that's frustrating, and it's a very sticky target, getting more people to travel on our buses. So I would urge anyone listening to the meeting tonight, have a go, get on the bus. It's not that expensive. The buses are much more reliable than they've ever been, really. A particular leader of our council uses the bus on a regular basis. So it's something that I want to get right. It's not there yet, so it's a real target that we're aiming for. But behind the scenes on that, there's some other things going on which are really positive. Buses lead to less congestion, and that one of the outcomes of that is lower levels of air pollution. And actually, when you look at the air pollution figures for certain parts of Medway, they are coming down, and that's really positive, really exciting, hugely important for our environment and for our public health and all the other issues around that. So there's a real positive one about air pollution. And just another one on road repairs I thought I'd pick up on as well. Looking over at Alex, it's amazing to see that 100% of the material collected off our roads by the road companies doing the repairs and everything else is recycled. I mean, how much better does it get to get a 100% mark on anything you do? And that's something that I thought I'd just mention because it looks really good, and it is really good for in so many different ways. So thank you.
Thank you. I'll take Teresa next.
Yeah, thank you, Vince. And I think if Nina was here, she would be absolutely drawing our attention to the excellent performance of the Creative Medway Compact to advance the cultural strategy. And I do think that that is worth a mention. This has been a very good year for our cultural community and continues to be. Very recently, I was pleased to join Intra-Community Trust at a development day where people from all over the country involved in cultural development came, and were really pleased with what they saw in Medway and enjoyed greatly the tours and showcases of things that are happening here. The cultural community is here to stay. They are they're advancing. They're a professionally generous community who share their expertise and do things together. You know, we've had the award of community grants, 12 heritage projects funded this year as part of the Heritage Place programme. We've got our Heritage Open Days coming up very soon in September, being launched at St John's Church, a fantastic example of cultural heritage in itself. So I do think, you know, although you said, you know, our attention has to be laser focused on the reds and ambers, we should take a bit of space to celebrate the greens. And I do think for the cultural community in Medway, this has been and continues to be a very good year with more to come.
Thank you very much. I can't see any other colleagues. Oh, sorry, Luella, please.
Thank you. I was just going to touch on priority 5 because that does cover the housing and homelessness element. We can see there's 1 out of the 9 that are red, and that does, as you mentioned earlier, is connected to rough sleeping and temporary accommodation. All of the greens come under our own housing stock, how we're maintaining it. It's efficient, it's compliant, and we're on track for all of our decent homes standards. But in terms of the rough sleep and temporary accommodation, that does continue to be a pressure. And as I've said before, there's so many measures I could keep going on and repeating that we are trying to meet the need, help those people, support where we can, and also reduce our overall expenditure on the temporary accommodation. We're doing everything we can, but we're going in the right direction.
Thank you very much, Luella. So and those are some really good examples. And again, Teresa, you're right to say we shouldn't ignore the greens. We should talk about them and absolutely celebrate them, but we need to focus on those areas. And again, Luella, having been out with the rough sleeping team myself directly, I can see firsthand the kind of compassion, the dedication, the commitment at 3:30 in the morning to be out there helping those vulnerable individuals, going above and beyond, far above and beyond the statutory requirements. And again, taking an approach which is saying it's not one size fits all. What works for some people doesn't work for everybody. And then at the back of that, making sure when people are in the system that they've got temporary accommodation which is fit for purpose, and ideally, and we'll get to this point, it's cheaper for taxpayers as well. And we're close to reaching that. But you're right, there's more to do and we're not complacent. And Simon, I thank you for raising 2 or 3 different examples there. And again, this cabinet will look at the greens, we'll look at the amblers, we'll look at the reds, we'll talk about them all. And I can tell you, I know firsthand, every cabinet member around this team are particularly focused when they're speaking to Richard's corporate management team on those ambers and reds to make further improvements. So Q1, more to do for this year, but we recognise the positives as well, and we're proud of those too. Are colleagues happy to support the recommendations as laid out? Thank you. Let's then move on to the next item. We're moving into gateway items. We're going to go to Gateway 1, procurement commencement. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to hand over to Luella. Thank you.
Thank you, Vince. And you have literally just said making sure our accommodation is fit for purpose. And this paper is all about making sure that we do that. So it's got a long title, but it is a repairs and maintenance contract for our general fund properties, which is largely the temporary accommodation. So due to the growing number of properties the council now owns, as part of our project to buy our own temporary accommodation, reduce the cost for taxpayers, there is a need for responsive repairs and maintenance to be in place, and it's now a requirement. We've got to the point now we need our general fund accommodation, including our temporary accommodation, one Medway lettings for housing needs, and a whole list of others that we've got in the report. We need to have contracts in place to ensure those properties meet a decent standard and are maintained to a decent standard. So the contract is intended to improve our management and control of the repairs and maintenance works for our general fund properties, as I've just said, and it's currently being carried out as additional work by a HRA contract, but that's not sustainable long term with the growth in numbers as part of our programme. So as responsible landlords, we want to ensure all properties owned are and managed by the council in a good condition for those living in them. To do this, we need a proper maintenance contract in place for them to be carried out, minimise the impact on the tenants, and obviously raise standards across Medway. So there's a number of options in the report, and 5 is the recommended one for competitive procurement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any colleagues? I think Simon, please. Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. And it's a sort of familiar thing that I talk about, which is all about the benchmarking of how we do things for our communities. This is so important. I've stressed it before. How we look after the people who are need us the most in our community. That's the standard that we're after. Looking to improve that, looking to make it better, making it well maintained, self-compliant, all those things that matter to people's lives. That improves their quality of life. That improves the outcomes of their lives and all the things that come out of that, including health and well-being and all the other issues that revolve around that. Just by having a well-maintained home, your life is so much better. We all know that, and this is how we do it for the people most in need in our study. So really good to see this coming forward. Looking forward to whoever gets the contracts and stuff like that. It'd be great to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. Yeah, absolutely agree that, and we've got the right length of contract term as well with LGR on the horizon. Again, we're not leaving it so that the new council have got days to sort something out. We're taking a responsible approach. Really welcome the fact that this includes the sanctuary schemes. I think that's critically important. As a White Ribbon ambassador, I want to make sure that those individuals who have to seek domestic abuse provision are getting a quality of standard which we'd all expect. And I think really important with option 5, which I will be very supportive of, as you've laid out, wherever practically possible, supporting Medway SMEs. You know, we want the Medway pound as much as possible to stay in Medway. That isn't always the case. It isn't always possible for lots of technical reasons, but where we can do it, we should do it. And with option 5, we will be doing it. So I'll be very supportive of that. Luella, back to you.
Thank you, Vince. As we are with a HRA landlord, we're leading by example. We want all of our tenants to live in good quality accommodation. This is the same for our general fund, which is obviously includes the temporary accommodation. And we must lead by example. We want to raise standards, but we also want to make sure that we're maintaining the properties because they are publicly owned properties now. They're owned by the council and it's all for the taxpayers' benefit just as much as the tenant living in them. So thank you for your support. I'll move option 5.
Thank you very much. Is that agreed? Thank you. Going to move on to item 11. No one's indicated they wish to go into the blue paper session, so I'm presuming we're not going to, and therefore I'll hand over to Tracy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So this report is seeking approval toward the pre-construction services agreement contract for Dean Court Secondary New Build Project. The addition of a secondary phase at Dean Court Special School is a real key strategic priority for Medway. It's going to provide around 250 specialist school places for children and young people in Medway. And this project is going to play a significant role in meeting the growing demand for specialist provision and reducing reliance on expensive, independent and out-of-area places, as was mentioned in the earlier report. So the report seeks approval toward the contract to the supplier named in section 3.2 of the exempt appendix. The construction company has identified significant savings that can be achieved in financial and lead times through a number of means, largely due to shared access and amenity services with another new build school being built on the adjacent site by the same provider. And one of those advantages is speed of delivery. This accelerated delivery of the project is really important because of the increasing demand for specialist school places. Forecasts indicate a significant growth in EHCPs over the coming years, and early delivery of this school will mean that we can see the financial benefits of keeping our pupils local, but also the benefits to those children and families of being able to attend a local school. So I ask Cabinet to approve the recommendations set out in section 7 of the report.
Thank you very much. Any colleague? I think from my perspective, I refer you back to the comment I made about 7 items ago, which is the right school for the right child. And absolutely, that's about wherever practically possible, mainstream schools, but where that's not possible, not turning children who have special educational needs and disabilities into commuters, which is too often the case at the moment. And that's not because parents are particularly pushy for a specific school, although I understand why they would want the very best for their child. Every parent would want that. It's because in some cases we don't have the capacity currently for all special educational needs strands in Medway in the way that this school will help add so much to that. So I'm very, very supportive of this. I think this is a very logical next step. And as you say, rightfully, the fact that because of other ongoing projects that will help speed this process up further is a good thing. So I'm very supportive of this. On that basis, back to you, Tracy.
Thank you. Very pleased to see it reaching this point and look forward to the project going ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you. Let's then move on to the final item tonight, Gateway 3 for Medway All-Age Service. Teresa, over to you.
Thank you, Vince. And as Cabinet members know, this concludes a long process of finding an important provider for the all-age substance misuse contract award. I remind everybody that this started in 2021, actually, under the From Harm to Hope strategy of the outgoing government, and has been built on by the Labour government, and indeed funding from the Office for Health Improvement and Disparities, OHID, have confirmed budget allocations for the next 3 years, enabling us to award this contract in the way that it has been awarded. And we've seen an increase in investment into substance misuse services within the public health grant, which is incredibly important. Substance misuse wrecks lives. You can see that, I'm afraid, sadly, every day on the streets of Medway. But there are many people working towards treatment and recovery. And having an all-age service now means that we can stop recidivism, we can capture addiction in its early phases where it affects children, particularly if there is long-term addiction in their families, and we can work with those families to help them manage and, importantly, avoid the continuation of substance misuse. So it is a new approach. There are break clauses embedded in the all-age service, and that's important because we've got to allow for any implications of local government reorganisation. But this service stands ready to embrace any increases that we'll have through local government reform that has been carefully looked at, and the provider understands that that may be, will be a requirement for them. So I hope that Cabinet will support this. Lived experience is part of our offer. So former addicts work with those who are struggling through treatment and recovery, and we'll be having our conference, as we do every year, later on in the autumn, reflecting on all of the work that has been done. There is positive news, but unfortunately, as we've heard this evening with the unstable state of the world, there are bad and nefarious people who keep coming forward with new ways to addict other people, make money from them, make their lives a misery. So this service has to be as agile as any service in terms of understanding what is happening, working with all our partners, including, of course, the police to make sure that people don't fall into, particularly those in treatment and recovery, some other trap that is waiting for them. And of course, our public protection team help us with that as well. So I'm pleased that we've been able to find a lead provider. The all-age service will deliver all-age treatment, prevention, and recovery interventions. And of course, they're all underpinned by clinical services and outreach services as well that are subcontracted, but all the time wanting to reduce barriers to access and stop people feeling stigmatized, feeling that, you know, we understand what has happened, there can be a new life. So I'm pleased that this work has been done. I feel that it's sustainable and tooled up to face LGR as we go on with this important work.
Thank you. I'll take Simon first.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to, it's fantastic this is coming forward and really supportive. I was talking to the head of a special school just the other day, not in this area, and who was telling me that a large proportion of the young people in their school were the victims themselves of families with drug abuse embedded in their family life. And as a consequence, from being born and even prenatal, they are victims then of the drug problem, because then they no longer, their development is completely destroyed and they end up in special education, which is what Tracy's trying to deal with on top of everything else we're trying to do. This work is fundamentally important and needs to be done in the best possible way.
Thank you. I can't see anybody else. So look, I think this makes logical sense, and we know there's too many occurrences where some really positive work may be happening with our young people, and then they get to the age that they're at, and then it's like, here you go again. You're going to have to go through the whole system again, often with a different provider. So from that perspective, having that all-through system, you know, I think for a couple of different reasons, both with that kind of transition, but also the multi-generation. We know firsthand, we see it in our streets, we see it in the conversations we have on the doorsteps with residents. There's often a multi-generational issue with substance abuse. So having a system where, and again, I'm not an expert, but we're going to have some people who absolutely are, you know, if they can take that approach as well, you know, innovative approaches to try and get to some of the root causes of this, I think that'll be critically important. So very, very supportive of this, and thanks to officers who have worked hard on bringing together something new for Medway, but I think we'll deliver, I'm confident, pretty quickly, actually. So very, very happy with that. Teresa, back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Simon and Vince, for your comments. There is some innovation here, although much of this work is long-term. And I think the all-age service symbolises that, and being able, as you say, Vince, to move smoothly, if that is the situation that you're in, from one part of the service to the other, instead of having to stop and wait until you get referred into an adult service, is going to be really helpful, and I hope that life-changing, actually, for lots of people. So I'm grateful for Cabinet's support, and I look forward, as I've done before, to visiting the provider, to seeing what they're doing, and thinking about how the rest of the work that we do on the council can help contribute to the hope that some of the people who are involved in addiction deserve to have.
Thank you very much. Is that agreed, colleagues? Thank you very much. That finishes tonight's Cabinet meeting. Thank you very much, everybody.